So, it's been a long time since you've seen math. What I mean by that is not just the basic, what's on sale, the total that keeps increasing every time you go grocery shopping or you buy gas or anything else. It's the type of math that you need in order to pass. Maybe you get back your GED, maybe any kind of high school equivalency, maybe to raise your score for the ASVET to get past a 31. No matter what your reasoning and which test it is, you still need to get past the heart of mathematics, which is algebra. You haven't seen it since you were maybe back in school, if you did finish school. Maybe you didn't make it to high school. Maybe you did and it's just been forever and a day since you've done it. But no matter what, you still got to take this test and you got to pass it. And there's a lot of gurus out right here, right now, that's basically looking at how to add, subtract fractions, how to do a little bit of factoring, how to read word problems, or maybe they're doing some derivatives of something. But you're just like, I need someone not just to tell me what the answer is, but to tell me how to think. Because then when I'm done with the live, now I'm able to take what I learned and apply it. That's the part that really gets a lot of people. How do you apply your learning? So in order for you to decide which way you want to do to solve a problem, you need to know multiple ways. And then you get to choose which one you want to take on. So for those that are coming in, my name is Audrey Codner. I'm the owner of ACG Math Tutoring, now known as Math by Audrey. And what I was 22 years classroom teacher, and I decided to do tutoring to give it a shot. And I usually come in the afternoons and evenings, but I had to stop because, there was a lot of people that were saying very unnice things and being very aggressive. But a lot of people asked me to come back on. And I said, you know what? Here I am. So one of the concepts that I'm going to be teaching today is factoring, starting all the way from the beginning by looking at the GCF, aka greatest common factor. Okay? Thank you, Ashley. So what we're going to do is break down what is the greatest common factor and then try to apply it so you know how to break down or factor. Okay? So let's take a look. So going back to my lovely handy dandy notebook. So when we're looking at factoring the GCF, and we're also going to be looking at trinomials when your A value is 1. And you're like, what's an A value? Don't worry, I got you. So first off, we need to take a look at our GCF. So we want to know what is the greatest common factor. All right, so this is how I'm feeling before the lesson. So we need to figure out what are the factors of 8, of 14, and 6. Like, where would I see that? So if I'm looking at the factors of 8, I know I would find an 8 in the 1 times table, the 2 times table, the 4 times table, as well as the 8 times table. Now, where would I find a 14? I would find a 14 in the 1 times table, the 2 times table. We will see the 7, as well as the 14. And where would I find the 6? I will find the 6 in the 1 times table, the 2 times table, 3s, as well as 6. So I want to know what will be my greatest common factor that I see in all 3 terms. Okay? So with Ashley, she's saying she sees the 2s. Yeah, they all have 1 in common, but the largest number that they all have factors of is 2. That's why they call it the greatest common factor. But with this situation, now we got the variables. This is the part that usually gets a lot of people. Okay? When it comes to the variables, sometimes people don't know which one is going to be representing the greatest common factor. So if I look at it, I have my x cubed, I have my x, and I have my x squared. So x cubed, that's the same as saying I'm multiplying that base of x 3 times. Obviously, one singular x represents one singular x. And for the x squared, that means I'm multiplying that base of x 2 times. So we want to know how many groups of x's do they have in common. So what I mean by, we have one group of x's right here, but notice we don't have any complete number of x's for this column, and we only have one x for that column. So how many x's do they have in common is just going to be 1x. Okay? So this is the part that gets a lot of people. You're really decent and really well with the numbers, but you don't know what to do when all 3 of them have the same variable, but they have different exponents. So here's the trick. Once you figure out your 2's and you notice that all 3 terms have the same variables, always pick the variable with the lowest exponent. Okay? Always pick the variable with the lowest exponent. So our GCF is actually going to be 2x. That's how they find the GCF. Okay? So you have to think of your factors of your numbers. Where would you normally find them? You can list them out. And then you want to know the greatest common factor. Same thing can happen for your variables. Now let's say that it was x cubed, a y, and an x squared. Well then for the variables, they wouldn't have anything in common. If this x was a y, they don't have anything. And you're like, well, Audrey, there's like these x's over here and the x's over there. No, it has to be in all 3 terms in order for it to be common. All right? Okay. So knowing a little bit about GCF, let's go into factoring. Now, one of the things you definitely want to know, factoring is basically the distributive property in reverse. That's all factoring is. So if I take a look at my next example, so I'm looking at 5x plus 20. So I want to know what are my factors of 5 and 20 and what do they have in common. Well, if I look at my factors of 5, eventually you won't have to do this. My factors of 5 is 1 and 5. And my factors of 20, I see a 20 in the 1 times table, the 2 times table, the 5 times table, oh sorry, I skipped one, the 4 and then the 5 times table, and then also the 10 as well as the 20. Okay, but what do they have in common? There you go. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Noko. All right, this is what we have in common. The highest number that they have in common is going to be 5. So now let's look at the variables. There's a variable x here, but there isn't a variable here. So that means they don't have a variable in common. It has to be placed in both instances. So how we take a look at this? We always pull our GCF out. And then we're going to divide the GCF by the original, and that stays in here. So you have your original divided by your GCF. Okay, this is the format each and every time. There you go. So my GCF in this case is going to be 5. Okay, just 5, not 5x. But if I go back to my original and I divide each of these terms by that GCF of 5, what I get for an answer is going inside the parenthesis. Okay. So now 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. But since it was 5x divided by 5, that gives me 1x, or just simply x. Plus sign, bring that down. Now 20 divided by 5, well, 4 groups of 5 gives me 20. All right, there you go. All right, yeah. Ask yourself what time that GCF gives the results. Yes, you can think of that way as well, Ashley. You can think of that as well. All right, this is your factor. So when they ask you to factor it, that's what you're doing. So if this was the original and I did the distribution, it would have given me that 5x plus 20. But by finding the GCF, figuring out what to pull out, divided by the original, that's what's left inside the parenthesis, that gives you the factor. Okay? All right? Okay? So a lot of these, all right? Thank you. All right, so let's try another one. And I'm going to make it a little challenging, but I'm here to walk you through step by step. Okay? I don't want you ever to feel that I'm not here for you. So let's take a look. So we have our 16x squared y plus 40 xy plus 8 xy squared. You're like, ooh, okay. All right. All right. So 16x squared y plus 40xy plus 8xy squared. Now, we want to find the GCF. Okay, we want to find the greatest common factor. So Austin is for your greatest common factor. Okay, let's take a look. So if we have our 16, what are the factors of 16? Well, we got 1, we have 2, we have 4, not 6, that's 7, but we have 8, we have 4, 8, okay, and 16. For factors of 40, where would you see the 40? I'll see in the 1, I'll see in the 2, I'll see in the 4, see it in the 5 times table. Okay, see in the 8, 10, 20, and 40. For my 8, where would I see an 8? I'll see in the 1 times table, the 2s, the 4s, and the 8s. Ah, there we go. All right. So looking just at the coefficients right now, what would be my greatest common factor? So there's 1s, they all share 1s, they all share 2s, they all share 4s, they all share 8. But what would be the greatest? Thank you, DRO. Okay, I see you. Ash, I see you. Mr. from another sister, I see you. Okay? So our greatest will be the 8s. This is why knowing your multiplication facts, if you can get your multiplication down solid, you can do almost every math, any math in the world, to be truthful. Okay, so some of us just need to brush up a little bit. So for the numbers, for the coefficients, my GCF is going to be 8. Now let's take a look at our x's. So one of them, we had an x, we have two x's. So we have an x squared, we have an x, we have an x. So the x squared is the same as saying x times x. And we all know the individual x is just 1x. Looking at my y's, I'm going to try to get that all together. We have a y, we have a y, and we have a y squared. So we have y, and we have y times y. Okay, so we can get the coefficients. Now we need to get the variables. Okay, all right, Breezy, we got you. I think it's just a matter we just need to break it down. Okay, if you ever have questions, Breezy, please do not hesitate to ask. So what is, for my x's, what do they all have in common? They all have one group of x's in common. So that means for the x's, they have one x in common. Looking at my y's, how many groups of y's do they have in common? They have just one group of y's in common. So now let's put it all together. So for our GCF, we have our 8, we have 1x, and we have 1y. Okay, this is going to be our GCF. So as I mentioned before, when you're factoring, you want to follow this pattern. You pull the GCF out, then you're going to use that GCF to divide by the original problem to fill out what's supposed to go inside the parenthesis. Okay. X squared, not x squared. There's just one set of x. So now this is our GCF. So we want to fill in what goes inside this parenthesis. So when we have our trinomial and you have a GCF, you always factor it out. So now I'm going to take our original and divide it by our GCF. So 8xy, 8xy, and 8xy. Okay. So one step at a time. Okay. Some of you guys are very super skilled, which is awesome. But I'm actually talking to the people that are like almost ready to break into hives because you're doing math. Okay. You're doing algebra. But this is what you need to do in order to pass that test. Okay. This is our time now. So, hello, Richard. So, let's divide. 16 divided by 8, that'll give us 2. Oh, I see what you're talking about. So now, we have x squared. So, x squared divided by x. So, knowing about your exponentials, I have 2 x's here. There's 1 x down here. So I can cancel out one set of x's. And how many x's are left is just the 1. Okay? What you do when you divide, you subtract your exponents. So it's 2 minus 1. And you're probably saying, well, where's the 1 coming from? Anytime you have a variable and you don't see anything as an exponent, it's assumed to be a 1. That's when sometimes teachers said x is equal to 1. No, x isn't equal to 1. Its coefficient and its degree is to 1. So now you have y divided by y. Well, 1 minus 1, that gives you 0. And anything to the 0 power gives you 1. So basically, we can simply say that these two cancel each other out. So that takes care of that part. Now you have a plus sign. Let's bring that down. 40 divided by 8. There you go, Dro. 40 divided by 8, that gives us 5. Now we have x divided by x. They cancel out. Okay, don't need the 1. Then we have the y divided by y. They cancel out. They're the same variables with the same exponents, so they can cancel out and give us 1, because xy divided by xy gives us 1 whole. But we don't need the 1 because we still have the 40 over 8. All right, so now we're getting to the last part. We have a plus sign, bring that down. Now 8 divided by 8, good, Dro. 8 divided by 8 will give us 1. X divided by x will also give us 1. But then here we have y squared divided by y. So we have 2 minus the exponent of 1, which gives us 1y, right? Hey, nurse, how you doing? So here's the thing. If you want to put the 1 in front of the y, you can do that. Okay, 1y and y means exactly the same thing. So if we take a look inside our parenthesis here, we don't have any like terms to combine. Okay, we don't have to break down any further. Okay, when it comes to factoring, sometimes that happens. Oh, good. All right, so when you factor out and you factor with the GCF, that's your final answer. Okay, hey Jean, how are you? Okay, questions on these? Eventually, after you do this for a while, you may not have to do all the factoring piece here. I do it so you can see where it's coming from. Okay, because a lot of people would have either done a 2 because 16, 40, and 8 are all even numbers. But then after you see that, okay, let me divide everything by 2. Oh, wait, I can reduce it even further. Let me do it by 2 again. Oh, wait, I can do it even further. Let me do it by 2 again. That is going to be time consuming. Okay, so that's why it's always best if you can have. This is fun? All right, no problem. Hey, Big G Money. We're just going over GCF. Okay. So now, if you feel that you need more practice with this, I do have a link in my bio that you can actually get a free math check. So if you go in there, and it's the only link that's there is under my Stan Store. You click on the Stan Store, it's the first link that shows up. Give it a try. Try to check out your abilities. Maybe it's something that you're like, I actually do know some things. You know, you never know. Give it a try. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Amber. Forgot how to do this. Okay. So now we're going to take it a slight step further. Okay. So we looked at the GCF. So GCF, you're taking out all the factors of each of the numbers, seeing what your greatest or your highest one is, okay, that all three have in common. Then you break down your variables. In this case, we had 2 variables, so we broke those down. And then you always, when you have a GCF, follow this rule. You have your GCF on the outside, and then you're going to divide it by the original numbers or the original expression, divide by your GCF to figure out what goes inside the parenthesis. Okay, awesome. Nice. All right, so now we're going to take it a step further. Okay, so I am here to support. So for people that are just coming in, that you're just like, I don't know who this chick is. My name is Audrey Codner, and I was a classroom teacher for 22 years. Yes, insanity. Okay, but here we are, taught high school. And what I'm doing is I'm really here to help those 25 and plus people that are thinking about going back to school. And there's some concepts that you need. Okay, some of you guys are trying to either go back to your GED, maybe you just need help with the ASVAT to see if you can get past that 31, and you're looking at math that you haven't seen in a long time, and I'm here to basically do the breakdown. Yes, I only teach math. You surely do not want me to teach anything else. You will fail. You will fail. All right, I'm going to stay strong. That's what I can do. That's why I slowly but surely came back. So now, as I mentioned to you before, factoring is just basically the distributive property in reverse. So things that we would multiply, there's going to be a lot of dividing. Things that we would add, we're going to do a lot of subtracting. So the best way, anytime you do factoring, the very first question you should always ask yourself is, do we have a GCF? Okay. And if the answer is no, now I need to look at the number of terms. So if I have 3 terms, what I'm going to do is call the AC method. So I'm not naming this after myself. I'm not that bold. But when we look at factors, we're going to look at what's called standard form. So standard form of a linear equation is like this. Ax squared plus bx plus c. So the coefficient of your x squared is your a, the coefficient of your x is your b, and your constant is your c. Do I tutor? Yes, I do. So now what we're going to do with the AC method, some people like to do cross sticks. I like to do the cross. What we do is AC means A times C. We're going to get the value of your A and your C. We're going to plug it in this spot. Then we're going to rewrite whatever our B is, and that's going to be in this spot. Okay, so let me show you through example. So if we had x squared plus 7x, we'll go with plus 10. Okay, so notice this is in standard form. The number that's in front of the x squared, that's going to be your A. The number and the sign that's in front of your x, that's going to be your B. And your constant is the one that doesn't have a variable x or y next to it. That and its signage is going to be your C. Okay. Now, for those that are taking GED, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is too hard, this is too hard. Well, guess what? You keep skipping these problems. These problems are 4 points on your GED. You can do well with adding and subtracting fractions. You can do well with the distance, rate, and time formulas. But if you do not score any of these 4-point questions, you're not going to pass the GED. That's how they academically do it. That's how they do the calculations. Okay, hey Janice. All right. So now, what we're doing is we're going to label. What's my A? What's my B? What's my C? So since we have the x squared, your A is not 1x squared. It's just 1 because we're looking at the coefficients in front of your x squared. Your b is going to be a positive 7, and your c is going to be a positive 10. You're stuck on? Okay. I'm going to walk you through it, and please, Flo, ask questions, okay? So if we're going to use the AC method, all we need to do is multiply your A and your C. So A times C is 1 times 10 in this situation. So 1 times 10 gives us 10. So I put a 10 in this spot to help me to remind myself. Okay. My B is that coefficient of the x, which is 7. I just have to rewrite my B. This next part is going to be the hardest part. Knowing your multiplication. Because I need to know what two numbers multiplied will give me 10 and add to give me 7. So it's the same two numbers. So what numbers multiplied would give me 10 and add to give me 7? Okay. Janice, I see you. Flo, I see you. Is that CeeLo? I see you. Breezy, I see you. Okay. Can I get one more? Okay. So we have 2 to 5. Doesn't matter which one, because 2 times 5 will give me 10. 2 plus 5 will give me 7. Okay, Ramjet, thank you. So what we're doing is we're going to set up our two parentheses. Because when you're factoring a trinomial, realize tri meaning 3, because there's 1, 2, 3 terms. So as we're factoring a trinomial and my leading coefficient, or my A, is equal to 1, we split our x's. Okay, we split up with our x's, we split our x's. See, life lesson. Okay, now the two factors that we got, the 2 and the 5, it's a positive 2 and it's a positive 5. We use it to split among the two parentheses. For me, I like this better than the box method, but that's me, okay? Because box method, you're going to have to think in reverse. And if you're not good with multiplication, it's going to be tough with division. That's why, PETA. Okay? If you're solid with your multiplication, it doesn't even matter. Okay? All right. So what you just found is the factor of your original x squared plus 7x plus 10. All right, sure. Okay. All right. How we're feeling. Okay. If I lost you, type the word me. Okay. If I lost you, type the word me. Because there's a reason why this is a 4-point question. Okay. All right. It's just like, I'm not putting myself out there. It's okay. Coefficients bigger than 1? Yes, I do. Inside my books, inside my practice books, I have that. So all of this stuff, all this instruction, I actually have it in a book that I created basically for you. Okay? So this one is volume 7 and 8. we're dealing with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing those polynomials. Okay, so we were talking about those yesterday, and it gives you some sample problems, but it also goes with all the factoring, the different types of factoring when your A is not 1, factoring when you have a trinomial in the AC method. This is what we're doing today. Okay, factoring completely, that's like the next step, but after we get the basis down. So what I do is I record all the sessions. So say like we were dividing monomials. You will see the video. There's a QR code in the very front of the book. You scan it, you get the whole playlist for this volume. Okay? FOIL is basically multiplying polynomials, Breezy. That's when you use your FOIL. Okay? You have my Audrey's notes? There it is. I know, it's been a while, right? So you take down your notes, okay? I give you some practice in those videos. I give you some room for the practice. And then after everything's done, I always give an exit ticket. But then I give you some extra practice on that concept. This is why a lot of us can't remember once the video is done, because we didn't do something to make our brain remember it. Have you ever get into a situation where you watch the videos and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. And then you walk away, or maybe you scroll past and look at another live, and then you try to remember what you just did. And you're like, I remembered it so well when I was going with Audrey with it, and now I can't remember, right? Because we need to get that solidified. You need to work on the practice. And notice the practice is not too crazy, okay? I do keep in mind, because just doing 20 practice or 50 practice problems in one session, that is not going to help you. After 10 questions, your brain just goes, bleh, all right? Okay, so that's why. So I have all of my books. It's a 10-book series. Okay, so you can, if you really want to get this, you can get a digital copy of it. Just click the link in my bio. But if you want the physical copy, once you go into the Stan store, which is the same link, scroll all the way down to the bottom so you can get the physical copy on the A. Okay, TSIA or the T's. Okay, all right, good. Because if it's the teacher's assistant one, you'll have all the basic components will be helpful. Okay? Because every place has a different name for it. All right, so let's try one more to make sure we're okay. TSI math test. Yes. But see, every state calls it differently. So that's why I was just like, what's the TSI? There's so many. Everybody has a different name for it. And if you like the notebook that I'm using, I actually designed this because I noticed that our students do not have a notebook that's designed for math. Because at the very back of this, I give a lot of resources, especially the factor chart. So like how we were trying to find the GCF and the factors, okay? I have all the factors here. All right, so then we have our complex numbers. This one is for those that are in Algebra 2 or pre-calculus. So I just tried to give a lot of the reminders in the very back. So this is called the Ultimate Math Notebook. So let's try we have a b squared plus 7b minus 18. Okay, so this is going to be our next one. So we're going to factor it using the AC method. So first off, we need to know what's going to be our A, what's going to be our B, what's going to be our C, and then we put it inside of our cross. Some people like to do a table style, some people like to do the cross. It really doesn't matter as long as you understand which factors are going to make it true. Okay, DRO, I see you. Okay, all right. Yep, it could be for Algebra 1, it could be for pre-algebra to get people ready, it could be helpful for homeschool parents, it could be helpful for people that are getting their GED or high school equivalency, it could help people that are doing their ASVAT so they can raise their scores up, so they can get the career that they want. It really also helps people to get out and get away from intermediate algebra so they can go right into college algebra. And the way they do that is through the Accuplacer. Okay? Yep, it's the basics for the RN programs, just the basic statistic. Yep. So now, also, flow, since you mentioned RN, if you need help with dosage calculations, my friend, she was here earlier. I'm not sure if she's here anymore. Blessed RN, she is a whiz at that. Like, that's what she does. That's all that she does. And you guys really need to be precise with your dosage calculations. Okay? All right, let's bring back memories. All right, so Patty, I do see you. Thank you so much. So now our A is always the coefficient of your variable squared. So since we don't see anything there, it's assumed to be a 1. Our B value is the coefficient that's in front of the B with the signage. So it's plus 7, so it's a positive 7. And our C is our constant with the signage. A lot of you guys seem to drop that. Can't drop it. So that means our C is negative 18. So in order for us to complete the AC method, we got to multiply our A and our C, which gives us a negative 18. And we rewrite our B, which is 7. So now we need to think, what two numbers multiply will give me negative 18, and the same two numbers add to give me 7. Okay, you're so welcome. All right. All right. My suggestion on doing this is to see what are my factors. What are two numbers multiplied to give me 18, and then play around with the negative. All right. And I think it was Patty. Yeah, that was her name. Okay. So take a look what Patty had. I know for 18, you can do 6 and 3. But if I make 1, if I made the 6 negative, negative 6 plus 3, that'll give me a negative 3. But we need a 7. Yep. So it's not going to be 3 and negative 6. We can do 2 and 9. And we know that 2 plus 9, that will give me 11. But since it's a negative 18, we have to make one of them negative. If I made the 9 negative, I'm going to have a negative 7. So the 2 is going to be the one that's going to carry the negative. Okay? So we need to know our multiplication table strong enough for us to figure out what are our factors of negative 18, and then you can make a list. Okay, you can do what Patty's putting up right now. You can make a list. But my suggestion, make the list as practice. But when you take this test, we need to know it. Okay, especially our multiplication facts. So now we know that negative 2 plus 9 gives me 7, and negative 2 times 9 gives me negative 18. We can go ahead and set up our 2 parentheses. So since our leading coefficient is a 1, we get to split its variable. There's a b here, and there's a b there. So now we're going to take the two factors that we found, the minus 2 and the plus 9, because it's a positive 9, will go into each of the parentheses. Now here's the thing. If you switched it and you wrote b plus 9 and then b minus 2, that's perfectly fine. Because if you're taking any of those standardized tests, you're going to be looking at your answer key anyway. The answers can help you out. Okay, but once you understand what is a GCF, once you understand how to factor, then you can do this. If they give you answer choices with 2 parentheses, you can look at the first 2 numbers. That should be a b squared. Oh, that works. Then you multiply the last 2 numbers. If the last 2 numbers, if you multiply them, it gives you that last digit or that last constant. That's your answer. Okay? All right? That's your answer. So, if you want more of these problems, okay, and you're just saying, Audrey, I got to take this test in 2 weeks. I wish I could like sit and do the instructional things. Okay? You could, if you feel that factoring is your only thing, that's your only vice that you want to break down, you can order the algebra at your pace, and you can do it as a digital order. Or I have other resources. Even though this says algebra, ASVAT math practice, this gives you more, like 3 quizzes, and it gives you some stuff that reminds you of the arithmetic reasoning section. So the one thing, you can just order just the book, okay? Nothing wrong with that. But the one thing that's different with me is I have one that gives you a video explanation of all problems. Okay, you get a regular answer key, but then I have one that you can get the book, do the quiz like you would normally do it, time yourself. Okay, people taking the ASVAT, you get 1 minute per question. Some of the quizzes are 40 questions. Another one is 32. Another one is about like 35. Time yourself. 1 minute per question. Then once the buzzer's over, you grade yourself. And if you want, you can order the one that gives you the video answer key. So now you got additional support whenever you need it. You don't have to wait for me to come on TikTok. Okay? So then you just have it going step by step. All right? Now, if you want and you're just like, oh, well, that's the ASVAT, Audrey. Like, is there anything for me that's taking like the TEAS test and I need something a little more general? That's why I have this one, the practice examination. This one gives you 6 full-length tests, 35 questions each. So that's 210 questions. And again, it gives you to you just like in testing form. Again, you would sit in a room, kick everybody in the house out nicely, okay? And then you sit down and you test yourself. Because when you guys practice, you don't practice as though you're going to test. You're practicing thinking that, oh, I need to take this question and remember it through understanding. That's mistake number 1, okay? Standardized test, SAT, ACT, GED, ASVAT, Accuplacer, TEAS test, whatever standardized test is out there. All they care about is, did you pick letter A, B, C, or D? Okay? So when it comes down to, oh, they might want to see my work, that's the mistake that a lot of us make when we take these standardized tests. We are not testing and people want to see our work. Oh, I got to be careful with my work that I do hand. No, they don't care. Okay? So the way that you test in a classroom is different from the way that you test for these standardized tests. Okay? And all of these are located in my stand store. So if you need that extra practice, hey, do it. If you have any additional questions, hey, ask it. Message me. Okay? Message me. So if you go to my profile, it's the only link that I have right here, which is the stand store Math by Audrey. Just click on it. It will take you directly to my stand store. All right. Then if you want to test your skills, go for the free math checkup. Go ahead and sign up for it. It's free. So even if you just hit start and you're just like, well, Audrey, I might not know anything. And that's fine. At least now you know. And now you have a person that you can say, I did poorly in it and I don't know. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's create a plan because you want this. You see that taking this test the back end of it is going to be something that's going to change your life. And I hate to say it this way, I want to be a part of that. I want to help you change your life. Even if you remember me for 2 seconds, that's awesome. Because anytime you hear my name, I want people to smile. I want to be like, she really does care. Okay? So if you want, you can just go ahead and scroll. Take a look. Inquiry about tutoring. All of my books are digital unless you go all the way to the bottom. I am having a current sale right here, especially for like middle schoolers or anybody that's interested in algebra. If you want, you can get the first 3 books of my Algebra at Your Pace, digital copies. So that is the integers, fractions, decimals, exponents, square roots, functions, order of operations, ratio, proportions, as well as solving equation, 1-step, 2-step, multi-step, distributive property, and the famous when you have a variable on both sides. All that is listed here. Okay? And the price of that's for $22 for my digital copy. By the 18th, that sale goes back up to $30. Girl, you just trying to pass? I get you. Because everybody's thinking that way. But see, here's my thing. If you just keep studying all the tricks, you're going to forget. Didn't you just say, like, once you see all this information and all of a sudden you forget? Because you're not trying to learn it. You're just trying to pass a test. And that's what's killing you. Okay? Yes, Star Fox, I have a question. I have something called reasoning. I don't know what is that? Qualitative reasoning. So we're looking at probably like a little bit more statistics. So qualitative reasoning. Yeah, some more so like in the statistics portion. All right. So all of that is listed. Go to my profile. You can click on the link. Okay. So we need to change the way that we see math. Okay. You can do it. I'm not saying that I'm coming out the womb knowing everything about math. Nope, I am not saying that at all. Because I used to suck at math. Word problems, nope. Fractions, oh hell no. Not doing any of that. Okay? But because I found, or God really put it in me, because that wasn't my need. I wasn't even thinking about trying to be a math teacher. I was thinking about trying to be the next Whitney Houston. But no, can't sing. So that's what we go through. Okay? Yep. So that's more like the topics in the Accuplacer. So it's more like the statistics. Anything with adding, quantity, numbers. Okay? So if you have any additional questions, as I'm going through a hot flash. Uterus, love it. Love having one. Definitely not. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay? Don't sit there in silence saying I'm embarrassed, because that's not going to help you. All right? Okay? All righty tighty. All right. So everyone, have a wonderful day. I'm going to end up, see if I can handle me sweating profusely. Sorry, I didn't want to come back on because this is starting to get gross. So if anything, just go ahead and message me. If you want to try out some of the problems, go ahead and try out some of the problems. It's just a name and an email, and I know I don't like giving people my emails because they like to abuse it and send me 60 million two things at a time. That's not what I do. Okay, I'm just curious as to who is looking at my stuff, who is actually using the stuff, and if I do come up with something new, I will send something to you. Okay. Okay. In where? All right. Okay, everyone. So have a lovely day. And if you have any questions, just go to my profile because I'm going to end the live. Just go to my profile and send me a question. Okay. Even during the requests, I always look at my request sections. All right. Okay. Have a lovely day.